Hi everyone, Dom Famularo here, and I am back. I love these Mondays because it gives me a chance to connect with many Mapex artists that I have met in the past when they were younger, and to see them mature and grow older and become phenomenal musicians and dedicated artists and what they're doing is such a phenomenal thrill for me. But with Mapex for many, many years, I've traveled the world performing at all these different events with all these different great drummers. And when young drummers come to hear me play, I always kind of put in the back of my mind, boy, I can see that sparkle in their eyes that they have this incredible enthusiasm and love for the art form. And they come to these events and they ask great questions. And our next guest was one of them. So I want you to welcome from the Toronto area up in Canada, would you please welcome Mr. Nigel Maynard? Here he is.
Hello, hello, Mr. Dom, sir. Thank you so much for having me, sir.
Thank you, Nigel. It's so great to have a conversation with you. And as we've talked before, just a few minutes before, we go back a long way where you attended one of my events many years ago with the great Dean Castronovo, and back in the Toronto area. And it was just so great as I travel around the world and meet all these great players. When I meet players like yourself that were young and enthusiastic, and to see how you have pushed your art form forward and you've persevered, you've stayed with it, you're playing phenomenal. You are in the process of teaching, which I want to get into also. But here you are, continuing doing this for Mapex. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having. I mean, as you mentioned, following this and taking up, the drums. I have to say, I'm standing on the backs of giants, because people like yourself, are the reason why, are inspiration for what I do. It's not about, hey, look, I'm amazing. It's like there's some weighty truth and some practicality in what you do. So I've often said one of the things I wanted to be is to be someone like Dom and do shows like clinic. It's teach. I realize if you want to learn something, try teaching it.
Well, you end up learning twice. You're exactly right. That's a great, great point. And what's incredible for myself is as I continue doing this, as I am, from the gray of my beard, you can see I'm now in the winter of my life. And as I continue to do what I love doing and teaching and performing and recording here in my studio on my Evolution kit back here, it's really kind of exciting to see this next generation like yourself that are coming out really strong. I've watched some of the YouTube stuff that you have out there, and you are just playing just so great, your groove, your pocket. And I want to talk about that, about how this all started for you. So let's go back to the beginning. When you were younger, you started playing drums at a young age. How old were you when you got involved with music and drumming?
So my mother would tell you when I was probably 4. And I sort of have a recollection of her being angry at me all the time because I'd go underneath her the kitchen sink and pull out her stainless steel pans and arrange them on the floor from small to large. And I actually do recall this. She would tell, I didn't recall until she reminded me. And I sort of remember, and I said, did I used to have a green hammer? She goes, yep. And that green hammer, you would try to play it in your cereal on like drums and all this kind of stuff. And she says, so, she saw it then. What was I going to say? The other thing was going into music, like just taking in school, and I started looking at gospel drum. And actually, no, before that, it was more R&B. And then I was introduced to the gospel music. And at that point, I wasn't interested because I thought it was just, right? I'm like, oh, that's no fun. And so one of my friends, and I'll give him a shout out, his name was Mark Geddes, called him Bigga. He brought me some gospel music, and I was like, whoa. So I started to take in a lot of that, and it blew my mind. Then I started taking some lessons, in the Toronto area, and the more I took, the more I wanted. And it just really was, this is me. This is what I need to do, And so then schooling was inevitable.
So when did you first get your first drum kit to go from to graduate from pots and pans to actual skins?
I was 12, and I never forgot. It was a an old school. I think everyone had them at one point. It was an export kit, and it was a double bass drum kit. My first kit.
Interesting.
The reason for that was because my stupid mind at the point was saying, well, I had this theory that if I can drive an 18-wheeler truck, I should be able to drive a Pinto, right? So
Ah,
I'm thinking, the more drums I have, the better it was. So
well, you're breaking up a little here, Nigel. We just kind of lost a little bit of that last comment. 1 2 testing 1 2. Oh, let's see where you are. I lost your voice now. We have no sound. Let's see. Nope, I cannot hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I cannot hear you now. I'm not sure what happened. Nope, you gotta speak. Nope, not hearing you. Let's see what you got there. Let's see if you can maybe you want to sign out and come back in. Try signing out and come back
you
in.
know
We'll
what?
see.
So whatever. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you now. Beautiful.
All right. Let me just adjust something on my Wi-Fi here. But I just, for whatever reason, the mic showed muted. Weird. So I just unmuted it.
Okay, good. Good.
So we should be good now. But I'm just gonna fix something on my Wi-Fi. Um, that should do it.
So, and while you're doing that, we've got some people that are
Okay,
joining
we're
us.
good.
We've got some people that are joining us here. I've got Tears of December Band that has joined us here. Sean Preston's joined us. Carlos
Hello.
Miami has joined us. Juan has joined us. Larry Rizzo's joined us. Fantastic. Keith Dudek has joined us. Keith, thanks so much for joining us. And we got some people signing in here. So the object was you got this double bass kit. So you figured if you can drive the 18-wheeler, you can drive the Pinto. Well, I'll tell you something. It obviously works because you can drive both of them.
Well, but you know what the interesting thing with that is? So originally it was 2 up, 2 down, snare, and 2 kicks, right? And then I'm like, well, this isn't enough because I need to have the 14 rack and I need to have a 10 rack or an 8 rack, whatever it was. And this is how life is supposed to be, right? So here's big lesson learned for Nigel. Number one is that if you can drive an 18-wheeler, you can drive a Pinto. And I found the opposite to be true. So when I actually went to Humber College to learn, I never forget. Actually, I often refer to one of my professors. He reminded me a lot of you or you him. His name's Roger Flock, and you guys have very interesting similarities. Even with you said like a little white down here. I call it wisdom strips, but wisdom strips. See what I did there? Oh, right. So he saw me and I was practicing and I was just ripping, right? Because I thought life was about just, playing 30-second, 60-note, 128 notes with your earlobe. And that's what real musicality is. And he comes in out of his office, he sits down beside me. And I'm like, okay, what the heck's going on? And I'm ripping. And then he goes and he takes away a tom. And I'm like, okay. He sits down, he watches me, and I'm looking a little confused, slightly uncomfortable. Then he goes, removes another tom. Now I'm starting to really struggle because my tools are disappearing. Basically, he took it down to I had kick, snare, hi-hat, one cymbal, and I don't think I had any toms. And I could not play. And he said to me, why can't you do what you're doing? Why can't he says, well, you took away all my drums. You took away I called all the stuff. And he goes, you should be able to make music on a snare drum.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be reliant. Like all that other stuff is good. He says, if you can make music on a snare drum alone, the other stuff is fine. But if it's the other way, so he totally went the opposite way of what I was thinking, which I thank him for.
So he brought you down to a unicycle.
Pretty much.
Good for him. Now tell me about some of your teachers. So how old are you when you started studying?
Seriously, probably 13. I had a teacher by the name of, what was my first teacher's name? Kevin Ball, who was also a student of Humber College. I had Don Vickery, Roger Flock. I had a stint with I won't say Mike Duke, not Mike Mangini. What's the guy out in Montreal? His name again? Jazz player. Mangini? It's something like Mangini, but I can't remember his name now.
Okay.
But I had Paul DeLong, I had Don Vickery, I had a number of people that invested in me with their knowledge, and I brought a couple of months ago, what's his name? Paul DeLong. He's played for Kim Mitchell. I messaged him and I said, Paul, I just want to tell you, man, I know we haven't spoken in a while, and I still see what you're doing. And just so you know, I've never said to you before, like, thank you for, the time that you invested in showing me a lot of stuff. I said to him, I said, for the record, you're still teaching me.
Boy, it's a great point. Let's go back a little bit now. So you just, after taking some private lessons, you decided to go to Humber College.
Yes, where Larnell Lewis and those guys are teaching now.
Exactly right, and Larnell, who's just a phenomenal player himself, and I think is Mark Kelso also teaching there?
Yes, but he came out. He's teaching there, but I never had him as a teacher because he came after I left.
He just is more just newer there. So tell me about when you went back there. So Roger Flock was the first guy that you started connecting with at Humber?
Sorry, say again?
Roger Flock was your first serious teacher?
So the first school teacher was Roger Flock, who basically had Mark Kelso's position. Mark Kelso took over for Roger Flock.
Right.
So he was the drum guy for all of the college.
So talk about what Roger did. What did he show you? Did he take you through certain books? What was his curriculum idea?
So one of the things that Roger really drilled into me, and he said, look, Nigel, he sat down beside me and he said, there are people that can play circles around me, but they may not get certain gigs that I get, or might not even want to be called for certain gigs. And the reason is that you have to go in with a certain intention, and you have to have a certain mindset. It's not about, because he recognized Nigel's natural ability, and Nigel's thinking, well, that's my gravy train, right? But he said it's about someone who puts in the work and not reliant solely on natural ability. Now, if you have natural ability and you put in the work, you have someone like Larnell Lewis, right? But he really emphasized about putting in the work. And he said, he also said to me about learning to play relaxed.
Yeah.
And not being so tense. This is the first I've actually heard this from anybody, because when I would think about drummers, it's like, oh, I'm so aggressive. I break 9 cymbals an hour. I'm so amazing. But so he said, Nigel, sit down and play a groove, and I'll play a swing. So I'm playing a swing, right? I'm there, I'm doing swing, and he's sitting like a millimeter away from me, right? Which was awkward enough. And then he looks at me and he's smiling just like you are right now. He looks at me, goes, "Are you?" What did he say? He goes, "Are you relaxed?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm relaxed." He goes, "No, you're not." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm relaxed." He goes, "No, you're not." I'm like, "I'm relaxed," right? And he goes, "No, you're not. If you were relaxed, you'd be on the floor." I'm like, "What the heck?" You know what I mean? He's like, you can't be fully relaxed, and you're not supposed to be. But he said, drop your shoulder. Like, and then he held my hand and goes, now you're starting to get relaxed.
Yeah.
So, these little Roger Flock is not out there saying that he is the world's greatest NASCAR driver, but you want this guy in your pit. He's that guy. He's the kind, and I ran jokes with him and other people. He's the kind that he would, he'd say, Nigel, go play this exercise. He'll go into the cafeteria, grab some lunch, and come back, and he says, okay, Nigel, your left foot was off by this. This was happening to this. This was that. And I felt that all through the vibrations of the floor when I went to get my sandwich. Like, he was that in tune. He was the most not intimidating person ever. Just because of how much depth he had, it just blew your mind, and it made you sometimes feel a little, but at the same time, his personality was so engaging, which was beautiful. So I really thank Roger Flock for, whooping my tail and deconstructing a lot of bad habits and bad mentality that I had.
Well, that's what great advice you got at a young age. So after Roger, who was Don Vickery the next one that was kind of also at the school at that time?
So yeah, Don Vickery was at the school. I'm trying to remember the order. So Roger was always there because he was over everything, right?
Okay. All right.
And so I had classes like with all the drummers with him, and then I also had the one-on-one with him. And then after that, we had I think it was Don Vickery was next. I actually really wanted Paul DeLong because I'm thinking all the fusion, all that kind of stuff. It's like, hey, 64th note, that's what I want, right? But he gave me Don Vickery. Now, another lesson I learned is I just believe God gives you exactly what you need, not necessarily what you want, right? So I had to learn some stuff that Don Vickery would have been the best. And Don Vickery was so nice. Like I called him, either Papa Smurf because he just had this look like Papa Smurf, or one of the seven dwarfs and stuff. But he was so he would say, Nigel, play a swing. And I would play I don't know, a moose jaw polka from Saskatoon, which was totally off. He goes, oh yeah, that was really good. No, it wasn't right. No, it wasn't Vickery. But he showed me stuff. He was the first person I would have to say that gave me that essence of don't play the drums to create a beat or a pattern, but play the drums to tell a story, or play the drums to communicate, or make actual stuff that people can understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
So Don Vickery was very quintessential, was very useful, and a blessing to me because I was just thinking notes, pause for a brief second, and then do more notes because I just watched the Chambers on the Buddy Rich Memorial concert, right? But Don Vickery said there's beauty in the way we speak. I think he kind of coined it like this. As I'm talking to you, I'm not speaking, hello, how are you today? I hope everything's well. Da, 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 da. I'm having this. I'll go a little fast, I'll go slower. And it's communication. Even just by, using some brush work and just do you hear the texture of the brush?
Yeah.
Communicate that texture so that people understand what you're feeling in the midst of that brush. When he said something along it wasn't exactly how he said it, but when he said that, I was like, what the heck are you talking about, bro? Feel what I'm feeling through the texture of the brush. What? It took a little while, but by playing, I actually started to hear and listening to Philly Joe and all these other greats, what they were trying to say or feel just by their textures. Well, and so he was that guy for me.
Well, this is such great advice that you were able to receive at at a younger age at college. I mean, Humber really is a phenomenal school and has always been and remains to be a leader in the music educational, academies, worldwide. What's amazing too is that many of the guys that you talk about here, Roger Flock, Don Vickery, Paul DeLong, I want to talk about Dave Mancuso and Rick Lazar. I think I've met them,
Yeah.
and they all are incredibly, brilliant, educators at what they do. So let's talk about Paul DeLong. Paul DeLong I've known for years. He's a phenomenal player, and he is Paul. I call Paul. Paul's like the Vinny Colaiuta of Canada. He really is. He's one of these incredibly brilliant minds that has, ability to play any style, any way. He's got endless technique, and I've actually had Paul visit me in my studio here, and we spent some time together. So it was just so great to have him. So talk about the influence that Paul DeLong had on you when you kind of learned from him.
My first real thing when Paul DeLong came in and he was going to start, it started as a group class. And I remember saying, "Oh snap." That wasn't the words I used, but it's like, it's about to get real. Right? So I remember, just because he had on that Paul DeLong round hat that he likes to wear. And he came in and he's like, I just felt he came in to bring the business.
Yeah.
And I got scared. I thought, just before going into Humber, it's like a major third I thought was somebody in the Army. My theory wasn't strong. So now he's going to bring the notes to get all technical, and I was like, "Are you ready for this, Nigel?" And he did. But what I'm grateful for is that through all the extensive high level stuff he brought, somehow he was able to break it down in a way I can comprehend.
Right. Yeah.
And though he might say, "Hey, this was wrong," or this, that, think about it like this. And he brought another way of looking, and he would demonstrate it, a couple of times when I went over to his home. And I may have not mastered whatever the task it was, but with the power within me to actually get it and do it. And it's because of the way he broke it down. So I'm looking at the big picture, and he said, "Well, look, let's look at it like this. Yeah. And then once you get this, then you can do this. And once you get this, you can get this." I kind of equate it to this metaphor. A train, one of those freight train cannot pull a 2-mile long, like the engine cannot pull a 2-mile long train. And people say, "Well, what the heck?" I see it all the time. It says, right. But what happens is the engine moves, and there's that slack. So the weight of the engine pulls the next car. And then these two now, their momentum pulls the next. And then those three pulls the next, and the next, and the next. If it was one long solid piece, it would never be able to pull. It's too heavy. So this is what Paul DeLong did for me, is that I was thinking about the whole big train. Let's get it. He says, let's get the engine, and then let's pull the next piece. And then those two will allow you to galvanize the next, and then the next. And then after a while, you build up, even mentally, something that might seem foreign. You're able to conceptualize it better because you've gotten all this already in storehouse, if that makes any sense.
Right. Sure. Well, how fantastic. Well, you really have these levels of educators that came along at certain times to kind of keep lifting you up to this next position of understanding. So when did you meet up?
And during this.
But you also, like, what I got to compliment you on, Nigel, you put the hard work in. You practice and you put the time in to what they were saying. Were there any specific books you were going through?
Oh, you had Syncopation, which I thought was the dumbest book ever, because I thought Syncopation, like, what the heck is this? Right? Because I'm thinking within the box. That's another thing. Guys like Roger Flock and really with Paul DeLong, is they said, and I'm using this to this day, is that yeah, you may see it like this, but there's so much more to do with it. So once they start showing me the different ways to use syncopation, stick control, I think you talked about it too some time ago about doing things with your feet and on practicing with your feet. I'm like, who has time for that back in the day? But I was like, no, but this makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I'm not gonna go out on the gig and and I will always love you. I'm not gonna do that, and it may not be applicable for 80% of the stuff,
Right.
but it does has its point sometimes. So books like Stick Control, books like I really hated New Breed initially, really hated that. Those systems, which I haven't gone through in a while. I might go back and look at it again, but I really and then singing like the fifth limb when they first told me about the fifth limb. I'm like, what you talking about, Willis? I was like, fifth limb, yeah. Like you all your four limbs and then use your fifth. I'm like, yo, don't get freaky on me now about fifth limb here,
And start singing. Absolutely, that's part of that.
Yeah.
Independence. So what are the books we were apart? Were there any other books that you were going through?
Rick Latham's
Advanced Funk Studies.
Yeah, the yellow one. Yep, that one. One that I've been using lately, which I didn't think it's actually a good book for younger intermediate guys, is that book. Actually, I have it right here. This one. And I used to say, why am I going to get this book? This is by John Rotham.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because again, I use it in different ways. So like my students are like, okay, I can play the groove, foot, snare, foot, snare. I'm like, great. Now we're going to use your hi-hat, and you're going to play quarter notes. You're going to play eighth notes. You're going to play the off eighths. And all of a sudden, their strength is like Samson cut his hair. They can't do it. They're like, ugh. And it's like, right? Or maybe it's eighth notes. I'm going to have you go to an eighth and 2/16 as the pattern.
Good for
or
you.
2/16 and 8, or 16th rest and 3/16 while keeping everything the same, right? Or I might have 8th, 2/16, 2/16, 8th as the phrase, right? And then just when they think they got it, they throw a left hook, and then they're knocked back down to learning again, and then throwing in the hi-hat foot. So that has been a great book. What's another one? I have some still in my. Oh, yeah. I actually started going back to this.
Any jazz books?
I started going back to this. Jazz books?
That's the Latin book. Is that the Latin book?
Yeah, that's the Afro-Cuban. Yeah, Funkifying the Clave.
Great.
I started revisiting that again because some of these books I haven't looked at in a year or so, and it's like, let me get back and see what I can touch up.
Well, good for you. And there's a lot of great books. I mean, as I'm a book nerd. I have thousands of books here that I'm constantly going through and fiddling with. And boy, good for you. So now you're going through all these books.
You got me back into this too. You got me Advanced Techniques for the Modern Drummer.
Jim Chapin Lives. Exactly right. Boy, if you can pick up the new version of it. The new version. If you pick up the new version that they have, I found the recordings of Jim Chapin playing all this stuff. And it comes, you can download it from the book. It's on the site. Pick up the new version of it. It's got Jim playing all the material in the book. It's absolutely incredible to hear it being demonstrated. Really, really incredible. So you've gone through really the core books of what it is. So when did you meet up with Dave Mancuso?
He was at Humber. I think I had him for just private instruction.
What did he show you? What was that like?
I'm trying to remember. He was a variation of Paul DeLong, if memory serves me correct. Right. Because he was into a lot of the same kind of stuff, as I recall it. I didn't have him very long, but one thing that I remembered about it was is that if he sensed that I was a little frustrated, like sometimes you want to throw the sticks at the wall. He had a way just to like calm me down. I was calm. It was not. I was like hanging from the chandelier, but he would
Yeah.
just sense that, hey, you know what, let's chill for a minute, like so how was your day, whatever. And he would give me just a little bit of a human interaction, which
Yeah. Good.
allowed me to reset.
Smart.
You know what I mean? Crack a joke, something.
I'm losing you again. Got a sound coming in here, Nigel. I can't hear you. You look. It sounds like there's a motorboat going on. I'm not sure what that is. 1, 2, testing. 1, 2. You know what you do if you can hear me? Sign out and come back in again. I'm not sure what that is. Sign out. You hear me? Sign out and come back in again. We're gonna have Nigel sign out and come back in again. We have a storm going on right now in the New York area. It just kind of hit us yesterday and still kind of lingering in here, and it's moving up towards the Boston area. So it's actually working itself north up to Toronto right now. So in the midst of this insanity of this storm, as we got hit, the storm was Henri, Henri, this storm that kind of came out here. And yesterday we were supposed to get hit here on Long Island. They said, the storm's going to hit Long Island. Be prepared. So I went and I got both of my generators pumped up, filled them up with gas, got them going on, ran them for a while, so I had them ready. Nothing happened. It was slight wind and a little bit of rain yesterday. Today we're getting a little bit more, so I'm concerned about the electricity going out, but the electricity did not go out. So the lesson is, when you have to prepare yourself with 2 generators to get ready, because I got those 2 generators going, that's why the storm did not hit. Thank you very much. I understand it totally in the process of what it was. Well, we're talking with Nigel Maynard here, and he's in the Toronto area. Let's see if we can bring him back in and get him going here again. Let's try this out here. Nigel, are we back together again?
Okay, are we back?
Yeah, we're back together again. So we'll see what happens. We got about 10 more minutes here. Let's see if we can squeeze some more things in here. So
okay, no problem.
After Dave Mancuso, you had Rick Lazar, I believe, right? Was he was also at Humber?
Yes, Rick Lazar. Yes, I did.
And so, I mean, each of these guys, and they're all phenomenal players. They're all phenomenal, educators at all different levels with how they teach. So you really had a real good balance at Humber to really kind of gather a wide variety of playing. And you play all styles. So, you may have started out as more of a hip hop R&B, player, but then you got involved with gospel and you got involved with jazz and Latin and fusion. So you really open yourself up to be exposed to the full range of music, which is why, Mapex is so blessed to have you aboard, because you can play any style and you can play any style well. And that's kind of in the range of guys who are now teaching at Humber, like Larnell Lewis, who could do anything. So you are that next generation that really is opening the door to make this happen, which is really, really fantastic. Let's talk about, so you come out of Humber, so you start gigging, were you starting to play with different bands when you came out of Humber?
Yeah, so when I came out of Humber, in terms of, because I wasn't expecting to land a big gig and make this money and sustain myself, as some people were. So I had, here we go. I went into stocks and bonds for a major Bank of Montreal, dealing with stocks and bonds trading floor. And I said it was going to be for a short stint. And I call it my sentence was a little longer than I planned.
Yeah.
But so I remember I was 36 stories up, and for the time that I was there, a number of years, I would keep looking out of the window, and I saw freedom. And I thought about what some people went and joined cruise ships, some people were doing some shows. I was still playing here and there, but not as much as I'd want to. I was still practicing because it was in me to do. But I'm trying to make those bills, and I got to a point where I got to the highest level paid level I can be without taking the securities course, the stocks and bonds course, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Now at that point, I was making pretty, decent money, but it's like if I want to move forward, I have to, take the course, which they basically said, you know, um, write off 2 years of your life while you're studying. And I'm like,
Hello.
do I really want to do that?
Yeah.
So this is something that I tell to people as well, even when I do clinics. I say something, you cannot fail at being yourself, whatever that is. You got to, there's something that, as it was said to me a long time ago, called being successful in the wrong assignment, right?
Sure.
Where you will have doctors that are making good money that were not supposed to be doctors. Same thing could go with musicians. So, maybe they're not happy. People say, oh, you're a success. You got the nice house, you got the nice car, but there's a big hole in their chest because they don't feel fulfilled because they are successful in the wrong assignment. So I got to this point where, I wasn't feeling it was myself. I wasn't feeling, I was like, this isn't it. And I think the linchpin that made me say, time to get out now, is I was on the trading floor dealing with one of the traders, and he said, hey, Nigel, so what did you study? So I told him, sound engineering and music performance. He goes, what? He pulls me off the trading floor. He goes, what did he say? I'm trying to remember the order he said it. He goes, are you married? I'm like, no. Does he have any kids? I'm like, no. He goes, do you know how much I want to go back and play the bass guitar? But I can't, because I've established this set of life and responsibilities and income. I can't just throw it away to go say, hey, babe, I'm going to start up a band and play bass. He says, you're not married. You don't have any kids. What's holding you back?
Yeah.
This is the most freest time
Yeah.
that you have to do it. Like, you can do this. You don't have any major stuff. And I just said, you know what? He's right. So then I remember they had a town hall meeting about a month or so later. And did you ever see the movie, the first one, Drumline?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so remember what's his name? What's the guy's name in this? But he was at the back. He was just like sleeping. That was me at the town hall, right? I was that kid at the back. It's like, okay, I was out cold, and I woke up just in time to hear the CEO of BMO Nesbitt Burns say, and you need to know what you need to do in life, how you need to get there. You need to go for it and do it. And I said, I quit. I'm going to go back and do this because
Good for you.
I don't want to have regrets.
Boy, this is a major turning point, because this is the point where you finally realize, if I'm going to try and live my passion, now is the time to do it. So you made it happen. You start now, so you get back into it. So you started playing with different bands and started to get involved.
Yes. What's interesting is that I fulfilled my mother's nightmare of my life just this past Friday, because initially my mother was not like, she thought this was going to be just a nice hobby, until she realized this kid would not put down the sticks, and he's constantly watching the Buddy Rich Memorial Concert, going like this the entire time. It's just like, it was like this for me, right? And so, but her fear was I was going to be some bum on the streets playing and begging people to put money in the hat.
Oh boy.
So this past Friday,
Oh boy.
my friend asked me to help them busk, because they've been doing so this is the first time ever. It was actually pretty fun, right?
Oh, that's his.
They had a whole, and I said, if my mom, I'm going to tell her, this is, Mom, I have fulfilled your fear of me playing on the streets for money.
Did you make any
I think
money?
I posted. I made $45.
Oh, come on, man! That's fantastic.
But here's the thing: that was that the $45 is what I got. There was 8 of us, right? It was a band of 8. So I got 45. I got $45. I guess everyone split things evenly,
Yeah.
and it was fun. Like, what? It was we didn't know. I don't know what the songs were going to do. They're calling it out, and we improvised. But we had audience. It was a sunny day,
Oh,
and it was really rewarding just to jam
yeah,
again, a paid jam. And I'll do it again, like time permitting. I'll do it again. But I know my mom would have been very like, she was my mother. You know, she always wants the best for me,
sure.
and she was concerned about my decision. Um, um, about my decision to go this route. But I think probably about, I want to say 10 years ago, my mother said to me, she goes, Nigel, I think your calling was actually supposed to be music. She acknowledged that to me. I wasn't expecting it. And she told me this about 10 years ago. And immediately my spirit received that. Immediately, almost felt like a weight that I didn't know was there was released, and maybe because she saw me doing it and I wasn't on the streets, begging people for two knees here or there. But it was reassurance of what I already knew. You know what I mean? And
Beautiful.
so I always tell people, it's like, whatever it is, if you want to be a garbage man, if I can help you, look, I got some garbage. I'll give it to you. You know what I mean? Like, um,
That's fantastic.
I'm just that guy. I don't see that I do.
Boy, I'm losing you again, Nigel.
Can you
I'm,
hear me?
I'm losing you again in the
Hello?
process. I'm not sure what's happening.
Oh, can you hear me?
Now you're back. Okay, now you're back. I'm not sure.
Okay, we're back. We're back.
Okay.
Can you hear me? We're good?
We're all back now. So just fill me in now. I don't want to lose you again. Fill me in about Mapex. You joined Mapex 2012, and what drums do you have there? And I want you to show me some of your snare drums that you have there.
Okay, so I got a Saturn. This is most of it. I have an 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. I also do have the kick is a 22. I also have a 18 as well because Dave Weckl again. When I first saw him, when he had the 22 and the 18 and the two different sounds and tones he had, I was all loving that. The hybrid sounds, one sounded very tribal, 18 with a full head on it, no hole. This snare here is a Predator that I'm so glad. It's been a long time. I still have the thing on it. It's been a long time since I had a shell like this, and I really missed the sound. So when I saw Mapex come back with it, I said, if I have to rob a bank, I'm wearing a mask anyways. So, I'm going to go get that snare. I love this. I tend to have, I like sort of darker sounding snares because when I crank them on, I want them to crack and pop. They're not too much. That being said, I am eyeing the atomizer because something about that just tempts my tummy with the taste of nuts and honey. And so it's really good. I fell in love. I've gotten so many people onto this, and doubtful you can get this anymore unless you find it online on eBay or something. But
Yeah,
this is the Nomad 13x6, I believe.
beautiful drum.
OMGEEEE. Like I've made people convert to this snare. People have given up their certain faiths for this snare, right? Just the sound on it, it's absolutely lovely. I also have, wish I brought them all out, but I also have here this one. So this is the Shadow. Now I got this one. The reason why I got this one is because I had the Armory Exterminator, and then someone stole it. So you still hear it? You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I went quiet for I wasn't sure. So I had the Exterminator, and someone stole it. And I really, like, my Exterminator was like, Nigel gets called for a gig. They're not telling me what style of music. What am I going to bring? The Exterminator I'm bringing, right? Because I can do anything on it. And I was going to get the Exterminator again, but then I saw this, which is basically the Exterminator on steroids.
Yeah.
Same type of wood. I think it's maple and birch and walnut.
Yeah.
And that sound was absolutely, my wife looked at me, is like, "You're still not going to leave me, right?" Like, no, babe, I'm still with you. I'm still with you. Um, but this here, so when Dave Lawrence mentioned check out the Exterminator, I tried it, and like, if I'm not buying this today, I'm putting it down my pants and I'm walking out the store with it, right? Like, so this here has been like, this has been the Exterminator on steroids. Loving the fact that it has the Sonic Saver hoops on it. I've brought it to a couple of guys. They just hit the Sonic Saver hoops. And they said the tone off the just those hoops is mint,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, so these are three. I have others. I have a Solidus that I used. Yeah, that hurts people. It hurts so good. Like I played in a few different areas. I put on what did I put on it? I think I just put a UV2 with a dot on it as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And the the way that hits you in the chest
Yeah.
and in the neck, and it hurts, but you say, "Please, sir, can I have some more?" You know, like
I love
so.
it.
But my first Panther was the Panther,
Yeah.
and that was I remember that was a steel one, I believe it was. Was it steel? It was a five
Yeah.
and a half, I believe, or a five.
Yeah, it was a metal drum. So that's the Saturn V that you have there, or the 4?
Actually, no, this is Saturn 3, believe it or not.
Oh, really? Beautiful drums.
Yes, this is the Saturn 3. So I have this most of the time in the studio with like 11, 12 mics on. But I have an armory, which I keep in the bag. So when I get called, I have a separate bag, separate drums. Just grab the bags and go. So I have an armory, which, that hurts. Like if someone for whatever reason cannot get the Saturn, please, for the love of all that is good in the earth, you might, whether you want the vaccine or not, you will be safe if you get the armory. It'll take care of everything. You don't have to, the armory is, so that's my road kit. It's a Studio Ease, 10, 12, 14, 16, 20-inch kick as opposed to 22. But I'll do any show with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a great
great
variety kit of what it is. So tell me about, so now you're doing some teaching, and I want to make sure everyone can understand. Is your website is mainstreetmusic.com?
ORG.
Mainstreetmusic.org. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Your Facebook, and Main is MAYN, Main Street Music on Facebook, Main Street Music on Twitter, and mainstreetmusic.com on YouTube. It's youtube.com/Main Street, also on YouTube, correct?
Yes.
Because I want people to track you down. Mainstreetmusic.org. Track you down. You've got some great ideas as far as lessons, some great lesson ideas. You've been through some fantastic material. You have studied with some of the finest educators that our industry offers, and at one of the finest conservatories, music schools at Humber College. So, you really have some things to offer. So I want to make sure anyone that's listening, and we've got people that are signing in from Australia and all throughout Canada and all throughout the U.S. We've got some people pretty much all over the place. And
all right.
Claude Hoffman from Belgium has joined us here, and so many guys that have joined on here too. I want these guys to tap into you, to seek you out for some lessons, and take a couple lessons with you, Nigel, because I think you've got something really powerful to offer. And I want them to sign on. You got your studio together there that you're putting together some GoPros and things that are mic'd up. So where you are, you're all set to teach online. So I want everyone now with the pandemic, and I was doing this teaching online way before the pandemic was even a word that we used 20 plus years ago, and I've enjoyed teaching this way from my studio. You're doing it now as the next generation, so I want guys to sign up from you, and girls to sign up from you, join the complete wave of what Nigel will have, and tap into what you've done, because you're doing some great things.
Thank you again. To hear that from someone like you, who consciously, subconsciously, at a younger age, I wanted to model and do a lot of what you're doing, and just inspiring people. I think even the model that I use even with clinics has very weightedly has to do with how you do certain things yourself, sir. Just because, you know, case in point, I did a clinic, I can't remember, 6 hours north of here or something like that. But somebody said, hey, Mr. Nigel, they had about 40 people there. He said, I'm not a drummer, I'm a bassist. I said, okay, I forgive you. And he said, he goes, what do you look for in a bassist, or what do you look for in musicians? And I basically just said, seriously? He said, yeah. I said to him, I said, what they're like off stage.
Yeah.
Because I said, the chances if you're on this tour or if you're on this particular show, I have to assume you're competent enough to do the stuff, right? But I said, but the question is, how are we on the tour bus?
Yeah.
Do you want to kill me on the tour bus? Do I want to kill you on the tour bus? You know, because if we get along really well off stage, we will be super amazing on stage. And I said, because it's a relationship. And I said, the purpose of life is relationships. How well and some of them won't work, I get it, but how well do we manage it? And this thing called music is really us relating to each other, relating to ourselves, and relating to other people out there.
Yeah.
So one thing I would just leave people is just know that this music thing is not about just me. It started before me. It'll go on after me. It's bigger than me. And I'm just answering the call to improve the quality of life through music.
Fantastic. Boy, that really is fantastic. Boy, well said. With that calling, you are succeeding. You are inspiring people through your performance of music. You're inspiring people through your teaching of music. And even as this interview has gone on, you've done great here, man. On behalf of Mapex, I thank you so much for your time, your talent, and we're proud to have you with us, Nigel. You really kind of bring a real nice, youthful hope for tomorrow that young players like yourself are really pushing this art form well into the 21st century.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor to just be here to meet again, you know, and talk. And I'm still learning from you.
Well, well, listen, you're the next generation, so you got to take this to the next level. So you keep on going, stay healthy, stay safe. My best to your wife, and hopefully at some point in the future, we'll get together and touch base and meet up soon.
We will. We will.
Thank you, Nigel. Stay well and stay safe, all right?
You too. Take care, sir.
Thanks. Bye-bye.